racist. You're a fascist. You're a racist. You're a racist and a fascist. You're a
Whoa,
fascist.
whoa, 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 stop, stop. You're gonna, you know what, you're gonna, stop,
Racist,
You're- you're-
racist, fascist.
you're gonna crash the economy there. The word economy.
You know,
If you're causing inflation, you know.
I think even normal, rational people who don't have a lot of education are just getting really sick and tired of people hijacking words like racism. It's so devalued now.
I think people have been done with it since 2015. People have been
No, I disagree with you. I disagree with you.
like people have been well, it's been a kind of a meme. Like, hey, if you don't like me,
No.
you know, just call them racist. And that's, I mean, it's
no. The Trump rhetoric and the Trump tweets have kickstarted, have sent this into.
I would call it. It was well, an override, sure, but it's been happening since the Obama era. But I mean, now
You're right about that. You're right about that.
it means so little to be called a racist or to call someone else a racist. I mean,
Right.
unless you're telling it to somebody who's never been called a racist before in their life, usually someone on the left.
Yeah.
Because by now everyone on the right, in some form or another, has been called every name in the book.
Mhm.
So it's like, well, the word means nothing because you have a stupid definition of racism. Racism doesn't really mean anything because, as we've established in other videos, there's no such thing as racism in the human biology.
Right.
And ultimately, as we stated earlier in this video, that it causes a hyperinflation of words. More on that in just a sec, but first, thank you so much, supporters, for following us, subscribing to us, liking us, because you guys will never, ever overinflate.
I love Alex because he's always selling us. He's our best salesman.
Kaching. Speaking of Kaching, make sure to help us out on Patreon. We very much appreciate them dollars. So
Yeah.
please make sure to make it rain our way. So getting back on track, we talked a little bit about the economy of sin. How some sin can be good stock, and sometimes it can plummet. But words right now, I'm thinking that the word racist, it already reached its peak. Like, it was a great word. Maybe it reached its peak in like 2016, the election of 2016. Now it's falling. You don't want to invest. It's like catching a falling knife. You don't want to grab it on the way down.
Yeah, when I was in high school, there was a very shy young man, a classmate of mine, and he was being bullied by some of the tough guys on the football team and someone, just tough guys. And they were all calling him a brown noser and a pansy and gay. And he probably was. I don't know. He never tried to suck my dick, but but he always came to me and he said, he said, I'm actually getting used to it, and so it doesn't bother me anymore. I hear them calling me these bad names, but it doesn't bother me anymore. I said, why doesn't it bother you? His name was Edward, and he said, because they use it so often that it has no more meaning. And I think that's what you mean by word devaluation.
Yeah, and it's not just racist; it's also fascist.
Yeah, fascist is another one. I got into a big discussion with an Iranian professor whom you know. Iranian professor who lives in the United States and benefits for all of the advantages of living in the United States, and he actually attacks the United States and tries to convince his students
non-violently.
He tries to convince his students to hate America and hate traditional values.
I had like 5 classes.
And hate
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Anyway, so this professor, I got into a discussion with him because I said that the left wing fascists, and he said, "Oh no, you can't say that. No, there's no such thing as left wing fascists. Fascism can only be on the right wing." Oh yes, we all agree on this. This is the definition. You must accept this word as I say it to you because I'm a professor of political science.
He does realize that politics is not a science, and he does realize that Gino Gentili, the person who actually arrived with the philosophy, the political philosophy of fascism, was a leftist. He was a socialist, and also Hitler was Hitler was kind of a left-wing fascist. So was Mussolini, and Stalin really liked fascism. So it's
No, you know what the interesting thing about this Iranian professor, political science professor, PhD, the interesting thing, he insisted that you're only a fascist if it's based upon religious bigotry.
That's literally not true whatsoever. I mean,
Right. But he
Mussolini
insisted that it had to be tied to believers in religion, especially Christianity.
Has he ever heard of Mussolini? Did he ever hear about that guy, like the most famous fascist of all time, and what?
Who
like,
tried to kill the Pope?
Did he ever hear about that guy? I mean,
And Hitler ordered him to kill the Pope. Well, Hitler ordered him to go kill the Pope.
did he ever? Anyway, yes, fascist is one of the, and I'll go so far as to say socialist has been devalued to a certain extent, especially by you. You've contributed greatly to the loss in value of the word socialist, because But one reason why is I say this is because very few people understand the actual meaning behind these words.
Right.
Traditionally, usually people understand the word racist to mean somebody who discriminates against another person because they're racist. However, the left has worked the meaning, the intellectuals, mind you, not the actual people, to work the meaning of racist to mean a system which uses oppression of people in a place of privilege, like, do I look like Sean King? Like, to oppress people who are in the minority and have been historically oppressed. Nothing to do with race.
Who need to be empowered.
It has nothing to do.
Word. There's another word. Talk about the economy of words. The word empowered. Listen, if you have to be empowered by somebody else, you're a loser. You are a loser. If somebody else has to empower you and kickstart you, you are worth nothing.
One more word that I think is lost its meaning, and it's the word education. When someone says, I'm very educated, or that person's very educated, to me, it makes them sound dumber, because I have met one too many people with PhDs or master's degrees that know diddly squat about reality. Mm-hmm. And I'm here in Washington, D.C. with some of the most educated people on the planet. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, a lot of them are really smart people. And, by the way, I want to be very clear. An educated person does not exclude smartness. But to say that that's how you attain smartness, is to be educated, is just a lie. There are some people who've never gone to school.
At the banner of every syllabus that I produce for my students in critical thinking and writing was a quote from Aristotle, and we can probably end on this. And that quote is this: an educated person is an individual who can entertain an idea without necessarily accepting it. The person.
Fascist! You racist, fascist, Hitler, bigot, socialist.
Anyway, folks, stop using the dictionary of your enemies, especially you conservatives out there. Don't use the word gay. Don't use the word race. Don't use the word racist. Don't use the word fascist. And don't use the word educated. Just stop using those words.
Make sure to, if you hear somebody else use them, make sure to beat them over the head with the correct definition.
Or a bike lock. And then say you're from Antifa. All right, y'all.
Cheers, Professor
Alex,
McIntyre.
it's always a pleasure. Thanks for following us, sharing, and sponsoring. Thanks, folks.
Keep doing so.